Hi, Zizaran here with another interview with Jonathan, who is the director of Path of Exile 2. Thank you so much for taking time for a little interview here.
No problem. Always good to talk to you.
Well, I've just tried PoE 2, and yeah, that was an experience. You must be excited to see the feedback and stuff.
And a bit scared, but yes.
Yeah, I definitely have positive and negative feedback here. I want to start off talking about WASD. That was, wow. I was actually expecting to hate it. And especially like the fact that you do move while doing the abilities. There were a few abilities that you stand still. They're very jarring by comparison.
So yes, we actually have thought about this. So there's actually so one of the things I was talking about at the start of the day was the fact that when we added WASD and started doing moving while shooting stuff, that it immediately changed like everything about every other class.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I think there's still more in that direction. So here's the thing, though. I think it's still important you have abilities that stop you. But one thing that we should be doing is rather than having the player stop and then just use the ability, is have them like slow down into it and then stop and then speed up into it again.
Yeah.
And I think that would help a lot.
I was going to suggest even like a 90% reduction, so you're still like barely moving.
Right.
It's just that the full stop is very jarring.
The problem is that, especially for melee attacks, you need to have some level of the animation taking over in order for it to feel like the right.
Yeah, I didn't try that.
So,
I'll say the sword.
Yeah. So on the Sork, actually, you are right though that. So we're actually planning on having it so that all of the spell animations are done using the moving while shooting system.
Yeah.
And then at that point, we'll just be able to in balance change. What stops you, what doesn't stop you, when you slow down, when you don't slow down, et cetera, and that will help a lot. I mean, I imagine that you try flame wall and it feels very jarring, right?
Yeah.
But we do want some level of some kind of slow when you first do it.
It was the combination of that, but I was doing flame wall, orb of storms, and then spark, and I also, by the way, I got very unlucky. I did not get a single item on my sword. I only found bows, and I was like, I wish I was back on my ranger right now. No weapon upgrades, so I was doing no damage. Right. So that was very rough. So my next question is, obviously there is a big balance difference. I didn't try is it the warrior is the other one that you can play? From talking to other players and stuff, there does seem to be quite a big difference right now between sorceress, warrior, and the ranger.
In terms of ease of getting through the content?
Yeah. What do you think is a good, because ranger felt amazing.
Right.
That I was one of the people that was very worried, is this game going to be for me? Am I going to have fun? And the first thing I played was Ranger, and I was like, wow, this is a blast. I'm just actually blasting through the content, going through a similar, not too much slower than Path of Exile 1, and going really fast. And I was like, I'm blasting. I'm having so much fun. Well, that was only at level 12 or 15. What kind of speed do you think? What are you aiming for? Would you like to see the Ranger brought back down to sorceress, or would you see the others brought up to the ranger?
The implication of that is that I knew that they were different.
Right.
Because the thing is that to me, we tried to get them as level as we could. But I think that there's a lot of, the amount of testing you need to do to actually get it.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is part of the thing with the delay as well, is the amount of testing you need to do to actually make sure that stuff is actually right is so hard. But what I will say is that the feeling you got on the Ranger, like if you feel like you're going around and that's fast, like good gameplay, then that is definitely what I would hope we can make everyone feel like. There's the other tricky thing, of course, as well, is that it can come down to what loot you got, and the randomness around that. So if you were just saying that you didn't find any good items for Sork, and so that can be part of the reason. And that's actually a really hard problem to solve.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, because that's something that is quite a lot easier in PoE when you do find upgrades quite a lot easier. How do you feel about the current level of finding equipment and stuff, so early on especially?
I like the fact that it takes you a bit long. So here's the issue, right? If you storm people and items right from the beginning, you don't have anywhere to go from there.
Yeah.
It's it has to be a storm of items right from that point onwards. So I really like what we've got with that. The main thing that sucks is that the more items you give people, the lower the variance is on player power as well. So by having items be where they are, you're getting more variance, and thus you get a very different experience between different players, and that's a hard problem to solve.
I think the number one thing I was sitting there thinking, I was like, I wish there was a quest reward in the first 5 or 10 levels. They gave me an alchemy orb.
Right.
Because that was...
Were you disenchanting things?
No.
Okay, so you can disenchant blues and rares to get shards of alchemy shards and transmute shards.
Oh, no, I was actually selling for gold.
Right, so you can do that too. So there's actually a tension now between selling for gold versus disenchanting and getting transmutes and alchemies.
That definitely changes a lot.
Yeah, so if you want to get more stuff for crafting, then disenchanting is the way. Otherwise, And the other thing as well is that if you were selling for gold, then did you use the gambler at all?
No, because that was so expensive.
It is pretty expensive, but you can, especially if you use it on a weapon upgrade, it can be a huge, meaningful...
Yeah, I was saving for that on my Wish, and I was like 300 off, and they were like, it's interview time, and I was like, I'm just about to gamble. But yeah, no, it was good. I also didn't realize early on how much gold skill gems sold for.
Right.
So actually, early on, I got crazy lucky on my first playthrough, and I found 6 multiple trap supports.
Right.
And I thought it was bugged. I was like, oh, these must be just dropping too much.
What?
But that was not the case on my second character, so I was just crazy really lucky.
Crazy weird
I just had 6 back-to-back, and I was like, okay. Yeah. So that was 600 gold I could have picked up, but I didn't realize they even sold.
Right. Yeah.
Now, one of the questions that I had thought of ahead of coming here, I was going to ask, how do you, because I was watching your Preach interview, and you were saying you wanted people to die at every boss, and it sounded like very Dark Souls-y. And obviously now I've played it. So I'm still going to ask the same question. How do you feel hardcore's place is going to change in PoE 2?
So one of the things that I think maybe one of my team members actually said to me after that interview that people misunderstood what I was saying, because it's like, I want you to die to every boss the first time you play. The reason why you don't die the third time is because you've learned the mechanics. Yeah. And once you've learned the mechanics, then, so this is the question. After you played your second time, did you die on any of the bosses that you previously didn't play before?
Yeah, actually, a lot more. So on the Ranger, I did first try most of the bosses.
Yeah, okay, interesting. And that's probably just because you managed to find better items and so on.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I do think hardcore has a place. And the reason why is because the bosses are highly dodgeable if you know the mechanics. Yeah. Like, if you know how to play them, you really can avoid all the damage pretty effectively. And so, I do think hardcore has a place. It's just that I don't think your first character should be hardcore, because you're probably going to die literally in G11, that's the code name, in the first area of the game.
So it's fascinating. So in PoE 1, I have never played a softcore season.
Really?
Ever.
Okay.
I've only joined softcore events, like BPL and things like that. And I was saying on my stream, I was like, I might have to prepare myself mentally to start playing PoE 2 on softcore. And now after playing it, I really think that's going to be the case. I don't know.
I would really hope, though, that for your second playthrough, that you'll be able to play hardcore and be able to do that.
Yeah, it definitely... It also might be viable if I overlevel a large amount, like 5 or 6 levels or something, but you will need a lot of player power to start on hardcore. That was, interesting. I wasn't expecting that. And we're seeing a huge visceral difference in bosses. The bosses you're fighting during the campaign now feels very similar to Ubers in PoE 1.
Sure. Well, but this is the reason, right? Because we've got the guy who is designing the universe, designing the level 1 boss now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the Path of Exile 1's campaign bosses are certainly weak compared to what we're able to do now. And effectively, yes, there's no reason why the mechanics of a low-level boss should be any, I suppose, different than an Uber boss as such, right? Yeah. It's just entirely down to balance. Yeah. And so, we want to make sure that the bosses are engaging. And, a friend of mine he's seen me play the game quite a lot, just at home, because he comes over all the time. But when I got him to actually play legit the first time, the thing he said that was kind of interesting to me was, oh, you're so generous having so many bosses early on. And that's kind of a weird way to put it, like the generosity and giving people like cool bosses. But at the start of the game, there's a ton of bosses. And the funny thing is that not even all the bosses that Act 1 have are even in, because every area will have a boss when we're done. And currently there are
some had 2.
Yeah, and there are some areas that currently don't have one in there.
Right.
And those ones will have more. And the thing is, they're all crazy bosses. The one I showed you today on the Ranger, that's just a random side area optional boss. And we didn't even show you all the phases that it has for time. We really are going crazy with the bosses.
Wow.
That's one of my favorite things.
So that's another thing I wanted to talk about. So from everything you've talked about so far, I felt like PoE 2 is going to be more approachable for new players. Now, I don't know, would you say the stuff we're playing right now is tuned up for us?
I would not.
Because if not, then is it more approachable?
I think it is. And the thing is, this was actually something I was really afraid of. And I think I talked about it in the Preach interview as well, where when we did first-time user experience testing, what I was worried about was that all the feedback was, oh, the game's too hard. But it actually wasn't. So you can actually make a hard game.
Yeah.
Okay, the fact that Elden Ring is as popular as it is,
Absolutely.
right, tells you the fact that you can make a mainstream game that is hard. It's just that you need to make sure that it doesn't feel unfair, and you need to make sure that that recovery from death. I mean, recovery from death in PoE 1 is like pretty heinous when you have to run back all the way.
Yeah.
The ability to just restart from a checkpoint and immediately fight the boss again is like a definite quality of life upgrade that makes it possible to make the bosses harder. So
so I was going around looking a little bit, and I don't know how they felt at all, but I saw like some people were definitely hard stuck and just chain dying to a boss, and I was like, because it's so rough with the full health reset.
Right. So the thing, I mean, but the thing is that's super important though, because otherwise you just cheese a boss and
100%.
But the thing is that what we do have to be really careful. So once again. It's going to come down to a lot of user testing and seeing, because sometimes you can get a blind spot where it's like, I know how to dodge this and I never get hit by it, and then but it actually is the damage is horrible, and you just need to make it acceptable. So like for example with Devourer, I believe that there shouldn't be people now getting hard stuck at Devourer. I don't think so. But to get to that point, we had to do a lot of different things in terms of user testing and so on. There's like, the burst up that it does. Previously, the AoE of it was bigger. There was like things like there was the acid spit that did a bit too much damage. Like you take everything a little bit.
The acid spit was the only dangerous thing.
That is supposed to be dangerous. Yeah. But previously, it was a one hit from full health on a Marauder. Which is not good.
And there are iframes on dodging, right? Because I was dodging straight through it, and
you can dodge through. So they're not. They're not iframes in the sense that you can get hit by anything. They just effectively you have 100% evasion to projectiles and attacks while you're dodging. So
right,
just that.
And actually, I really enjoyed the full health reset. I thought that was really cool.
That wasn't
sometimes frustrating. However, have you thought about, so currently the zones reset too on death?
Yes.
Do you feel like that's important? Because that was something when I was playing, I was like, I don't know if that's needed.
I do think it's good to have some kind of penalty for dying to white monsters usually. Mm-hmm. What I will say is that I think we could maybe improve our checkpointing system a little bit.
Yeah.
In particular, there are cases now where you get checkpointed somewhere and then you end up having to, and it kind of feels a little bit bad because you have killed a lot of monsters before. And the other thing as well is there might be more checkpoints we can do. Like for example, with Red Veil, I feel like there should probably be a checkpoint after every one of the pillars.
Yeah, because that zone doesn't have a waypoint either. Yeah.
So like that's an example of the kind of thing which we could improve. But once again, it just comes down to watching players, seeing what they do, seeing where they die, seeing where they get frustrated.
Yeah. And I tried the crushing thing. Was actually I was kind of glad that happened, because when I came back in, I was in the same spot. It was paused, and I was like,
yes.
Oh, this is neat.
That is a major advantage.
Yeah.
Very good. As long as the server doesn't crash.
Yeah. It does currently reset the map as well, but other than that, I was like,
that's because the client stores it.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is neat. I can get used to that.
And that's actually just really nice, just being able to log out and pause. It's funny the pause thing. It doesn't seem like a big deal when we talk about it, but then when you get used to it, it's like it's very hard to go back to not having pause.
Yeah.
And just being able to open the passive tree.
That was
not having to worry
so
about.
Nice. I wasn't sure, so I was like, am I safe?
Yeah, it does.
I'm not hearing anything. I think I'm safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was honestly, it was a blast to play.
Awesome.
I'm wondering, with the campaign bosses being so much like similar to how our old Ubers and map bosses are, what are the map bosses and Ubers going to look like? Are they going to be absolutely insane?
Well, that's the hope. I was hoping that you could see. You didn't get a chance to play the X boss yet.
You got bugged out.
Yeah, you got bugged out, unfortunately. But that's an very annoying type of bug to have in an event like this.
Yeah.
But the Act boss is Act 1 is getting towards the point which you would hope that's the stuff is. There's lots of interesting phases and transformation stuff and like all sorts of stuff going on with it. It's pretty cool.
My build was so small.
Yeah, I know. You probably
the worst thing was when I was playing on the sorcerers afterward, I found a +1 bow with attack speed, and I was like, really?
Nice.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah. Now, trying to think any other questions. For endgame maps and stuff, there's not going to be any scours or at all.
No scours.
So that means that do you think people are going to trade maps with each other then? Or will there
I
just be
don't
maps that you break?
I don't see why they wouldn't be able to do that. And okay, well, this is the question. This is a question. Should there be mods on maps that completely brick the map to the point where you'd never want to try it again? This is actually a question that we talked about, and I don't think we finished having that conversation. It's kind of an interesting one. But ultimately, yes, the scour thing means that there might be maps where you're like, you have to, you could never play against that map.
Yeah.
In that case, trading it is probably the right answer. We've talked a little before about how PoE 2 will have a different trading system, so ideally that will not be like a problematic thing for you to deal with. But that is something that I could imagine people doing.
Yeah.
Map sustain is honestly one of the trickiest things in the universe to balance. Like, it is so easy to go over the line one way or the other and then to completely destroy the feeling of how things are. So
yeah, I mean, strangely for me, I preferred, this is a very unpopular opinion, people would lynch me for saying this, but I actually love map sustain when it was in Tempest, where you would be mostly around tier 11s and 12s and sometimes go up to tier 15s as a treat.
I agree.
I agree. And then that now when you're perma-sustaining tier 16s and have 200 spare, I'm like, but I do see the other side of the argument too. Like, is there a need for map sustain to be the exciting part of the argument?
I think that it was healthier back then.
Yeah,
I think it was.
There were less exciting things in the game back then.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it was healthier, I think, in that regard. So
Yeah.
That is like, look, like, I don't know where we're actually going to end up because there's going to be probably like 14 hours of arguments about this in the office about this particular topic. But at the same time, like, I definitely like. There's just this thing, people really don't like it when they have to go back to tier.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to convince someone to like that.
Yeah.
Even though I think it is ultimately healthier, but it's a tough
100%. I think I'll have a last question there with the gambler, because I can't remember what the answer was, and I was looking at it a lot. Can you get unique items from the gambler?
You can.
Okay.
You can.
Awesome. Well, honestly, I did have a blast on the Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Did not enjoy my time on the Sorceress as much. I definitely hope to see some balance changes there.
For sure.
And honestly, that's the thing. Like, it was entirely a numbers thing, and not having items. So very fixable issues.
Yes.
And thank you so much for inviting me out here. Thank you so much for doing an interview, and looking forward to see more of PoE 2 and all the stuff coming.
Well, thanks for coming.